Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out. You know what I'm saying? Every time I speak, I want to shiver. You know, I don't want them to be like, they know what I'm going to say because it's polite. And even if I get in trouble, ain't that what we're supposed to do? I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world.
Yeah, I'm back. Oh, it feels good to be back. I hate that I had to miss last week, but I did enjoy some good time with family, and time with family is what it's all about. Like, you just kind of basically blink and then you look at these kids that you meant to talk to and that you meant to go and show all these different things to. You blink and then you look and then they're driving. It's the most amazing thing that I've ever seen, but I'm trying to make sure that I get in some time with nephew and show him some stuff. So first off, peace to the folk in the chat. Good to see you all out here, and hopefully you all are enjoying a wonderful Saturday. And there's some particular things that I want to go ahead and get done with first that I want to kind of go and show you all. So let me go ahead and add a few things to the stage. So basically, there's been a question that I've been thinking about. What's the value of a vote that nobody has to earn? Think about that. We spend a lot of our time talking about voting as an expression of political power. But there's another side to voting that we don't talk about nearly enough. Voting isn't merely an expression of preference, it's an exchange. A politician wants something from you, your vote, and you want something from that politician, representation. Whenever two parties need something from one another, they have a bargaining relationship that exists. But here's where things get interesting. What happens when one side believes it's getting what it wants, regardless of what it gives the other party in return? What happens whenever your vote stops being something politicians have to earn and becomes something that politicians simply expect? Because I want to propose something that's this morning, and I want you all to really think about it. Political loyalty and political power are not necessarily the same thing. Under certain conditions, political predictability can actually reduce bargaining power. And that's what we're going to examine this morning on Black Men on Code. Because before we get to that, I want to explain my approach and why I'm approaching this question this way. Because in this episode, we're representing something that's larger that's happening with Inspired Truth Broadcast. I've been thinking a lot lately about what I'm trying to accomplish with this channel. And I've realized something. Current events aren't really the product. Current events are the evidence. They're the case studies. They're the experiments happening in real time. What I'm actually interested in teaching is something that I'm calling systems literacy. There we go. Now we're on the correct slide. Systems literacy is the ability to look beyond individual events and recognize the underlying structures producing them. Most people are trained to look at the event and ask, what happened? I want to develop the habit of asking what system produced what happened. Who are the actors? What are their incentives? What constraints are they operating under? Where does power reside? What information does the actor possess? What behavior gets rewarded? What behavior gets punished? What feedback loops are being developed here? And perhaps most importantly, if those variables remain unchanged, what should we expect to happen next? That's systems literacy. Because once you understand the system, something interesting happens. You stop being surprised by everything. Sometimes you can actually predict the behavior. And that's where another concept comes into this channel. This is that current events loop that I was telling you about and how we get to prediction. Now, the thing that we're going to introduce is something called applied social physics. And let me be precise because social physics isn't something that I invented. This is like 200 years old and it's got like different iterations and different ways that it's been approached and how it's evolved over time. There's an academic history of researchers attempting to understand collective human behavior using quantitative methods, network information, flows of that information, mathematical models, and large scale patterns, basically metadata. I'm using applied social physics somewhat differently. I'm a physicist, and physics trains you to think about the world in a particular way. Let me add this to stage. Also, let me go and shout out to some people that's in the chat already. What's up, Namer? What's up, Tunnel Runner? It's good to see you brothers here this morning. And we're going to dive in, my man. Oh, this is going to be a lot, actually, that we're going to be able to talk about. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So there's a question that I've been, so basically, let's go back down to this because now we're dealing with the physics part here. And I was actually like reading a book basically from the MIT, the latest iteration of social physics, which was presented by MIT basically. And they have their data, like their data sets are actually available online. At some point, I'm going to try to go and pull those up and maybe we can kind of review some of this stuff. But they get into like a whole lot of interesting things. Like they were always have been on the cutting edge of stuff. Like they had like Easy App Inventor for Android when I was working on it. They get into a lot of cool stuff. So we're going to try to see if we can try to present a little bit of this stuff here and there as we go along through the channel. All right, but let me get back to this. And I'm sorry if I'm not like too active in the chat right now because I'm kind of like trying to bounce to like my slides. It's like all of this stuff is kind of hard to do at the same time. So I'm going to go straight through some of these slides real first, and then we'll get to some other stuff. So here's what we have here with our approach to physics, and here's the model that would. So basically, what we end up having here is this approach called applied social physics. We have actors, we have incentives, we have constraints, we have networks, we have status, we have information, and then we have feedback, power, and outcomes. So rather than spending like a whole hour explaining everything about applied social physics, I'm just going to show you in terms of a model. That might make it like a lot easier to understand. So let's get straight to this model. So for the next few minutes, I want you to forget about Black people, forget about Democrats, forget about Republicans, and let's build this model. Imagine I'm running for office and there are two constituencies in my district. We'll call them Group A and we'll call them Group B. Group A supports my party at about 90%. Once again, let me say that again, 90%. They've supported us for decades. And my campaign knows something important. Even if Group A gets angry, even if they're disappointed, even if they don't get everything that they want or the important things that they want, they're probably not going to vote for the other party. Now, let's consider Group B. They're split. Maybe I get like 52% of them, and my opponent gets 48%. If 5 or 6% of that population changes its mind, I could lose my job, particularly if they're the majority of the population. Now, remember, I've got limited resources, limited campaign money, limited appearances, limited political capital, limited time, limited ability to satisfy competing constituencies. Let me repeat that again. Limited ability to satisfy competing constituencies because everybody's trying to get access to resources. So here's the question. Which group does the system give me the greatest incentive to pursue? That's not a moral question. That's not a Democrat question. That's not a Republican question. That is a systems question. Group A may be the most loyal constituency, but Group B may be the most valuable marginal constituency. Why? Because Group B can leave. And that brings us to an extremely important concept, credible exit. Here's the credible exit slide. If you can't say no, your yes becomes less valuable. We understand this everywhere else. Employment, business, negotiation, relationships, international diplomacy, consumer markets. You don't even necessarily have to exercise the exit option. It just needs to exist. The other side merely has to believe that you could. That's leverage. If I'm negotiating my salary and my employer knows I absolutely will not leave under any circumstances, my negotiating position changes. If a company knows its customer will continue to buy its product regardless of the quality, the incentives change. So if a politician knows that a constituency will continue to support them regardless of the performance, why wouldn't their incentive change too? I'm not telling you whom anybody should vote for. I'm asking you to examine the incentive structure. That's systems literacy. Now that we've built on that model, let's test that against reality. This is that yes, no thing and your value of your yes, no. I kind of ended up skipping a little bit of that. So let's go ahead and go to a clip, and then hopefully this will kind of crystallize a little bit of what I'm saying and what I'm talking about. By the way, I hope that my sound is coming in good.
Wait until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love.
Yeah, it's that. It really is that. All right, so let's get back to it. I halfway want to play that clip again, to be honest. That was pretty funny. I know that a lot of y'all actually saw that before, but I don't know if all of you saw that second part there where he actually explained what he was saying. He's like, hey, I actually do want something for my community. And then that's when he ends up explaining, saying that crazy stuff. But anyhow, yeah, let me get back to it. Most people heard that and they immediately asked, was that offensive? That's a reasonable question too, by the way. But that's the first order question. That's just the surface level. The second order lens question asks, what assumption had to exist for that sentence to be uttered in the first place? Think about that. The underlying assumption is that Black identity and democratic voting behaviors are so strongly correlated that deviation from the expected political trajectory ends up becoming a deviation from the group itself. Don't get emotional about Biden just yet. Look at the system. What does that reveal about the expectations surrounding the vote? And hold on to that thought. Now I'm going to have to take some stuff off of this screen to see if I can because they always limit me to how much stuff I can put on here. So we can go ahead and get over to the next clip. And these clips they come up kind of slow. But here we go.
Support reparations for Black people.
That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
Have resulted in the greatest disparities. And we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Let's get back to it. Let me see what's up with the chat, y'all. Y'all been seeing this? No. Yeah, exactly that. Oh, man. All right. Now, I deliberately let you hear that in context. Like, I didn't like go ahead and clip everything out that I could possibly clip out. I want you all to and this still isn't the full thing, but this is the full context. So you all heard what she said, that she was asked about reparations, and basically in the longer form of the video, she goes into like a whole lot of tap dancing around the issue before finally saying, okay, well, I'm going to propose something for all people. And then because black folk are disproportionately wealth deprived, and that's going to give more to you. And then the reporter actually intelligently said, hey, that's for everybody. That's not for us specifically. And then she ends up going into some more tap dancing around it. And then finally the real truth comes out. And then she tap dances around that too. But people were smart enough to actually see what she was actually doing there and what she was saying. Oh, Neymar's in here. He's got on top of this. He says, let me go ahead and highlight that there so y'all can see that. Oh, I can't see it, though. Hopefully, y'all can see it. It's like, let's not forget that in previous clip, we were listening to the ramblings of a nearly 80-year-old senior citizen who obviously has senility. Look, we are going to play some more. We're going to play some more of Joe. So don't think that we're done with him in the least. All right, so you all heard the context. I'm not interested in winning some arguments by misleading people or anything. And Harris wasn't saying that I don't want black Americans to benefit from anything. Okay. Her argument was that policies benefiting black Americans could also benefit broader communities. Actually, kind of like vice versa, really. It was like policies helping broader communities end up helping us because of if we can structure it in a certain way, but then not actually go and then target us. It's a whole lot of tap dancing. But anyhow, that's an important distinction. But now I want to show you something else. So let me see if I have enough space, if I have to remove something so I can get this next clip up and running. I mean, I hate that they limit us like this, like with StreamYards. We always end up with a little bit of an issue when we have to like multiple clips. Let's go.
Long history of being home to Puerto Rican and Latino families who chose to start their lives in our state. They grew our economy, and every single day, their presence in our states and our country make us stronger and better.
Vice President Harris also campaigned in Las Vegas with Jennifer Lopez.
Sí se puede.
Shout out to you, Tunnel Runner. She stole your tagline. Oh, man. All right, let me see. Neighbor's got something else up. In other words, she wanted to provide assistance and investment that would be mutually beneficial across the board. Correct. That's exactly right. All right. So you caught the words here. You caught like basically the framing here. Like the framing here when they were talking about earning the Latino vote, the key word was earn. Now, place those political messages next to one another. Like with one constituency, we can find rhetorical reflecting on extraordinarily strong expectations of support. With the other constituency, we hear language of earning support. I see you on the chat. Yes, we can. Now, does that alone prove discrimination? No, but there are other variables: electoral geography, demographics, turnout, historical party identification, swing states, coalition strategy. Systems literacy requires us to account for all of these variables too, okay? But it still gives us a fascinating question. Why does one constituency sometimes appear in the language of expectation, while the other one appears in the language of earning, of working, of actually having to roll up your sleeves and do something? Now, let's complicate the argument even further, because there's evidence that Black politicians' cohesion can create enormous power. Like there's actual some sort of power that we can actually see here expressed sometimes. Let me see if they'll let me pull up the clip, or if I still take another thing off. I hate that they limit me. Am I still limited? Yay, I got it. Let's go. Let's go.
First prize is Michigan, with 125 delegates up for grabs. Black voters made up 21% of the state's Democratic electorate in 2016. African-American support helped propel Joe Biden to victory in South Carolina and on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, see, I needed them to say it out loud. They needed to say that it was us. Like, you don't have us vote a certain way, and you don't have this outcome that ends up being produced. So before South Carolina, Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign, and we know this, it was struggling. Then Black voters in the South Carolina area showed up, and that's how we ended up with a lot of what we saw go down after that. Like, you don't get to everything else before you go through us. And now, like, look what happened here. Like, Black voters didn't weaken themselves by voting together necessarily in that particular case, but their cohesion changed the trajectory of a presidential election. So I reject like this the simplistic argument that if Black people vote overwhelmingly for one party, that automatically means that they have no power. What actually ends up, so like clearly that's not true. And block voting can create enormous power, which means that we need to have a better question that we ask. And here that question is: how do you convert electoral importance into bargaining leverage after you deliver the victory? Like, I mean, you have to have a way to punish them. If you're going to go ahead and you're going to block vote and you're going to demonstrate this power and you're going to give, these politicians this big thing that they want, you got to be able to punish them too. Si se puede. Because those are two different things. So now, a unified voting block, it can be incredibly powerful, and we see this. Let me see if we can get some of this stuff cleared out real quick. Oh, nope, we don't want that one. We want all of these to be removed. Remove, 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 and remove. Now I think I have a little bit more space there to kind of talk about some more stuff here. And we're going to get to that right away. Before we get into like the next clip. All right. Looks like that's a little cleared out. I have so many freaking clips. All right. So if we're actually like organized about this stuff, we can actually find some positive stuff from doing this block vote. But you have to like control the turnout. And if it influences primaries, if you're financing the candidates And if you're dealing with like independent institutions, like your institutions are not captured by something else like the party or something like that, then you have power. If you can replace politicians who don't deliver, then you have power. And if you can impose consequences, you have power. But imagine another constituency. So this is another theory. So you vote, actually, this is our theory for the most part. So we vote like 90%. So the 90% of this constituency votes for you, right? For this candidate or this party or whatever. But it has no credible mechanism for punishing you. It won't vote for your opponent. It won't seriously challenge you in a primary. It won't withhold endorsements. And its institutions won't impose meaningful costs because they're captured. And its leaders get access but can't enforce measurable outcomes. Now you've got something interesting. You have loyalty, but you don't have leverage. And that's what a captured constituency is. And fortunately, we don't have to leave this as a hypothetical, because another Democratic constituency recently conducted something very close to a real-world experiment. So now we can see what happens when you do have collective action, but you also have collective power demonstrated at the same time. So let's add this to the stage and let's see what that looks like.
Protesters have spent the last several months on the streets of Michigan demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. But now they're taking their fight to the ballot box, asking Democrats to vote uncommitted. They say it's a way to use their vote as their voice.
A campaign called Listen to Michigan wants Democrats to skip over any candidate on the presidential primary ballot and bubble in uncommitted.
The uncommitted movement is truly a movement that is a protest vote where people are collectively standing together to say shame on Biden and his administration.
We demand a permanent ceasefire now.
But it's these voters who shook up the Democratic primary.
If he doesn't get it together and change what he's doing, we will not vote for him in November.
Overnight, an extremely unusual watch party for voters who cast their ballots not for a candidate, but for uncommitted, in protest of President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war.
I didn't feel good about voting for Joe Biden.
You voted for President Biden in 2020, so you think in November you might vote for former President Trump?
Correct.
Here in Dearborn, Arab Americans make up a majority of the population. Longtime Democrat Ramsey Kassem told me he was furious with the Biden administration over the death toll in Gaza.
I think it's a great idea to vote uncommitted to send that message.
Yep, that's exactly freaking right. That's what I want. One of those things that I want you all to look at. And we're not actually even done with that for the most part. Like, we're going to talk some more about that uncommitted vote demonstration because it merits a little bit of discussion. All right. So in 2024, Michigan Democrats for their primary ended up voting like 100,000 voters that ended up selecting one word: uncommitted. Think carefully about what they did. They didn't just become Republicans. They didn't even have to select another Democrat for their presidential candidate. They simply communicated, you do not automatically have our support. And here's the thing about that. Like, that actually kind of led to this, if you all can see it. I don't even know if I can really read that right now. Let me try. So this is like the co-founder of the Uncommitted national movement was actually projected to win the Democratic State Senate primary in Michigan. And like, I don't know for sure if this is I don't know for sure if this is what I think it is, but like, if that's actually true, that's astonishing. Like, this lets you know that that whole idea that you have to vote blue no matter who is just nonsense. It's not real. It's basically just a way of telling you that you need to like get rid of your power and that you need to have no real say in anything after you've handed over the ability to represent you. Like, okay, I've said, okay, you're going to go ahead and you're going to represent me. And then if you don't represent me, it's all good if you don't do that. So anyhow, I want to show you all that. Let me get back to the slide. So basically, they ended up saying, hey, you don't automatically have our support. And suddenly everybody wanted to know what those voters wanted. The media covered them. Party officials discussed them. National politicians had to account for them. And those votes translated into delegates. And basically, like later down the line, just became like more political power for the most part. So you basically had those uncommitted votes turn into delegates, which turned into national attention. And then you ended up eventually down the road having this, where you end up having people or politicians or candidates that supported the uncommitted movement end up getting into elected office. Now, look at that progression. I mean, like how that whole thing went down. Let me open up this so I get another slide up there, because I don't want to have you all with like stale slides. Let me see if that new slide is up. Come on up, slide. There we go. So you have voters, which ended up going into organized withholding, which ended up going into votes, which ended up resulting in delegates, which ended up resulting in national attention, which ended up resulting in people actually listening to the demands. Now listen carefully. I'm not endorsing their particular political positioning by showing you this, but I'm just trying to like show you all the mechanism. They introduced something into the system, conditionality, and their support could no longer be treated as just completely automatic. And uncertainty changes incentive structures. And that's applied social physics. So let's move on to this next clip. Hopefully I have enough stuff cleared out to where I can get that up. It's just why can't they just give me like infinite space on here? It'll make everything so much easier so I wouldn't have to just keep on struggling with pulling up clips. And let's see here. And then now they want to kick me out of my freaking folder. Don't kick me out of my folder. Give me my folder back. All right, let's play it.
And you're thinking about sitting out? I'm not. But, you know, Cousin Pookie might be. But how can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable.
You know, I'm going to play that one again because it merits playing twice. Like that was, yeah, that was a lot. That whole shaming thing, language and all of that stuff. Like, let's hear it again because I want you all to like write down, make your notes, dissect this like line by line. This merits me playing it again. Let me play that again. If you all can actually stand this.
and you're thinking about sitting out? I'm not. But, you know, Cousin Pookie might be. But how can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable.
Yeah, that was a cringe scalding. But let's go back to that timeline there. So this was during the 2024 campaign, and there was growing concern that some black men were becoming less enthusiastic about supporting Kamala Harris. And then something interesting changed. Something interesting happened. One of the most influential figures in the Democratic political party enters the conversation. And there goes Obama. He says his thing. Now, I already know that many of you heard and watched that, and they what they heard was disappointment. What they heard was frustration. What they heard was disrespect. Some felt that they were being treated like children. And all of that stuff is fair. Like, especially with this talk about, oh, Pookie this or Pookie that, or how dare you think? How dare you think? Whether you agree with Obama's tone or not, that's actually not the system literacy question. The system literacy question is this: why did this intervention happen at all? What changed? For years, black men voting behavior has been relatively predictable. Now, there was enough uncertainty that one of the party's most influential messengers was deployed to address it directly. So think about what that means. If nothing had changed, this speech would have never happened. And if there were no concerns, this speech would have never happened. If everybody already knew that black men were going to just give up their vote and there would be, again, no reason to make this appeal. The existence of the intervention is itself evidence that something in the system changed. Now, let's talk about that tone. Some of you thought that Obama was motivating black men. Probably not any of you in this chat here, but you know, maybe some people out there in the ether. Maybe somebody like Consciously. Others thought that he was scolding black men. And some believed that he was attempting to shame black men into political alignment. Whether you agree with that is up for interpretation. You know, whether you agree with that interpretation or not, here's the important observation. The system was no longer operating as it basically assumes things would be. That support that they were expecting became a little bit shaky. And the campaign believed that enough uncertainty existed to where an intervention was necessary. So check out what I'm saying. I'm not saying that black men got what they wanted in this exchange. I'm not saying that the uncertainty automatically created like a policy victory or anything like that. But what I am saying is that uncertainty changed behavior. And sometimes the first behavioral response isn't the policy. Sometimes it's messaging. Sometimes it's persuasion, or at least the attempt of persuasion. Sometimes it's pressure. Sometimes it's political criticism, you know, which we saw here, basically. Sometimes it's negotiation. And the forms of that response may vary, but the response itself tells us that something important has happened. that the system has noticed, and that's applied social physics. So let's play this right quick while I catch my voice.
Democratic National Party held a convention. A lot of people, you know what I mean, getting up there and talking, and, you know, everybody really, you know, eating it up, you know, throwing their hands in the air like they just don't care damn near. So it's you know, what I didn't hear is what's in it for us? What's in it for the black community? The way it look, they don't have a plan. Everybody's, you know, talking about get Trump out, get Trump out, get Trump out. If you vote, that's gonna happen on the first day. So now what? Trump out, now what? What? What do we get in the first 100 days? That's what we're trying to figure out. What do we actually get that they could give us overnight like that? 42% of black businesses closing. None of that money. Where's the bailout? Not the PPP loan that they didn't give us. Where's the bailout? I don't want to hear about deficit. I don't want to hear about what our generations gonna have to pay. Because if we don't have shit, they ain't gonna have shit anyway to pay nothing. So we gotta start something right now. Democrats don't seem like they got a plan. Republicans don't seem like they got a plan for us. So how the hell you gonna vote for them? Make them earn that vote. They can start today. They ain't got it yet. They can start today. Make their ass earn that vote, man. Stop playing with these people, and they'll stop playing with you.
That was a powerful statement. That was a darn powerful statement. And he made that way back in 2020, basically. Now, forget about whether you agree with Ice Cube's specific proposals, but look at the sequence he was trying to change. The traditional sequence often looks like this. Like, let me see if I have that. Let me see if I have that slide. Let me add this thing here real quick. Might be this slide. That's the one. This one right here. Yeah, 2020 was in the midst of the pandemic. Hey, what's up, Bronk? Good to see you here. Let me pull up this correct slide. So this is kind of like what he was, a little bit of what he's talking about, that dynamic, that sequence that we were basically being sold. Is basically support equals victory, and then you have a request, and then we hope that request is actually fulfilled, right? That's what the dynamic that he was talking about. Now, what Cube was proposing was something a little bit different. Instead of going by this paradigm, he wanted to show us something else. He wanted to show us this. We make a demand. We have a negotiation. We get a commitment. And then you get our support. Notice how those two things look different. Let me go back to that first one. This is the paradigm that we're sold. We support first. They get the victory. We make our request, and then we hope that request is going to be fulfilled. Cube says, nah, demand, not request. Negotiate. Then you get a commitment. Then you get our support. Makes a lot of sense to me. And that's a fundamental difference between that bargaining structure. Again, applied social physics. Now, let me go ahead and show you another one. Hopefully, I can get that clip coming up. I really should have just kind of like put these all up at the same time, but I couldn't because StreamYard is StreamYard. And StreamYard will be StreamYarding. All right, here we go. And I hope you all have been taking notes because we're going to be discussing all this stuff.
She is a significant player. That's a serious position. But it's like when I name it, well, I don't know if that counts. I'm not so sure. Well, if it doesn't count for y'all, well, the hell with y'all. 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. Hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do. Well, first of all, you're going to learn more about Vilsack's record, but my point is this. I don't think we should make that a big issue going into before January 5th when the election takes place down in Georgia. But I also don't think we should get too far ahead of ourselves on dealing with police reform in that, because they've already labeled us as being defund the police.
So that was from an hour and 40-minute meeting with basically like civil rights leaders, basically our Black representation for our interest. Let's go back to that whole paradigm there. Do you think that that paradigm looked more like this? Support, victory, make a request, hope that request is actually fulfilled? Or do you think that that looked a lot more like this? Demand, negotiate, commitment, support. Think about that for a moment. Just marinate on that. Marinate on that. So there's another fascinating, and you heard, so I clipped out those particular portions for a reason. Like you got to hear some of the tone. It was like, take what I'm giving you or to hell with you. Like the man literally said that. And then he's talking about what he's not going to do. Like, yeah, I know we're not going to do, I promise I'll get to that, but we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. And we're not going to do the other. We'll just kind of get to that eventually or whatnot. But by the way, you all need to go and make this coalition with this other group because, they're bigger than you. And, all of these little, all of these slights and subtle jabs and forms of disrespect that you saw. But let me stop getting way too far off course. I got to get back to let's get back to the mission here. So that was another fascinating piece of evidence. After the 2020 election, Black civil rights leaders spoke directly with President-elect Biden and Vice President Harris. The election was now over. The support had been delivered. Listen to how political negotiations sound after the transaction has already occurred. We did listen to that, and we heard that. And that looked like this. That looked like this paradigm over here. I'm not asking you to interpret Biden as some sort of a villain or anything like that, but presidents have competing constituencies, competing demands, competing electoral concerns, and that's actually the point. Because once your side has exchanged already, and that's already been delivered, then what mechanism remains for enforcing your side of the bargain? That's the question. Which is why we need to follow what Cube said and look more like this. At least that's my opinion, basically, for the most part. So in other words, I'm doing this, I'm kind of like getting a long-winded way of saying that Cube was actually onto something in basically like in a major way. And I guess maybe more people need to listen to Cube. Like, yeah, I understand it. I get it. He's a rapper, but he actually made a darn good point. All right. So now I already know where some people are going to think that I'm going with this. Some of you are going to be probably typing, exactly, that's why we need to go as Black people. We need to go to the Republican Party. And no, you missed the point. You missed the lesson in this entirely. If Black Americans simply go from one captured Democratic constituency to becoming a captured Republican constituency, we haven't changed the system. We just changed our jerseys. That's it. That's all that does. Political independence doesn't mean automatically opposing Democrats. And and it certainly doesn't mean automatically supporting Republicans. It means retaining the ability to evaluate both of them. And basically, there may be individual Trump policies that Black Americans might like, and there may be some Democratic policies that you hate. Evaluate them. That's exactly what I'm telling you to do. Evaluate both. But don't replace one form of unconditional loyalty with another form of unconditional loyalty. Because if Trump has to be evaluated at a systems level too, then one example of Trump administration intervention on how federally this is going to be one of those things where I'm going to have to show you. Like I'm not going to just tell you. I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. It's the easiest way. This is why, like, just saying, oh, okay, well, let's get rid of vote blue no matter who, and let's replace it with this instead. It falls on flat. It just falls flat. Let me just play you because it's easier to just show you.
America's museums are on notice. President Trump says he has directed his attorneys to review and get rid of exhibits that he disagrees with, specifically calling out the Smithsonian Museum and claiming it is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been.
We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner.
This latest move follows an executive order the president signed in March that directed the Smithsonian to, quote, celebrate American exceptionalism and remove divisive or partisan narratives. The president's latest complaints about exhibits on slavery come as the administration tries to overhaul how American history is taught by criticizing or even threatening to withhold funding from schools that offer curricula like the impacts of slavery.
All right. Did y'all catch that? I hope you did. Now, I want to be precise here. The Trump administration argument that removing ideological distortions and restoring more unifying American history, like we've seen versions of that before. We've seen the way that the Daughters of the Confederacy manipulated textbooks. This is not a new story. But what I'm trying to show you here is that that's not necessarily your friend either. Like, don't look at this in terms of like, oh, does this group love me? Does that group love me? Like, forget about that whole love thing and just look at the systems and just operating through the systems and the incentive structures. Because you have to like understand like his argument there, like, and evaluate these consequences here. Because Black Americans have obviously been interested in asking who decides what parts of American history are going to be called divisive. Like slavery is actually a part of American history. Reconstruction is a part of American history. Jim Crow is a part of American history. Redlining is a part of American history. Civil rights movement is a part of American history. And Black Americans forcing the country to confront its contradictions between its ideals and its actual practices in reality, that's American history. You can't understand today's system if you remove the historical context that produced it. It's just all about making you invisible to the system. And this is precisely why I say systems literacy cannot become a Democrat bad, therefore Trump good type of argument. That's not systems literacy. That's dichotomous thinking. And dichotomous thinking makes you easy to manipulate. So here's the standard I propose. Don't ask which party loves Black people. Political parties aren't your girlfriend. They're institutions. Ask, what does the politician want from us? What are they offering in return? what policies are actually being implemented and who benefits, who pays, what are the second order consequences of it, what happens from 5 years from now, what happens 20 years from now, and most importantly, what leverage do we retain after giving our support? Those are the important questions. I only got like a couple of more slides that I want to show you all real quick. So let me make sure that I'm still on track with this. Yeah, I think this is the one that I want. Let's move this slide on up and let's keep this on the screen while I go ahead and continue on my tirade. Apply the standard to Democrats. Apply the standard to Republicans. Apply it to Trump. Apply it to everybody. Not just political parties, not just politicians, but everyone. Because code isn't a party. And I think this was a really apropos particular slide that I put up here. It's really kind of like encapsulates what I'm saying here. Like we have too much identity wrapped up in political parties all the way up to the point where people are saying those crazy things like, oh, well, if you don't vote Democrat, then you ain't black. And all kinds of nonsense that's ridiculous and insulting all at the same damn time. All right, let's get back to it. So what that Michigan example gave us was an important insight. Those voters didn't necessarily have to become Republicans to create leverage. They remained within the Democratic Party ecosystem while making their support conditional. So the system's question isn't what jersey should black people wear. It's how does a constituency make its support valuable enough that politicians have to compete for it? Maybe that's an electoral competition. Maybe it's a primary challenge. Maybe it's withholding endorsements. Maybe it's independent black political institutions rather than captured ones. Maybe it's candidate specific rather than party specific, and trying to vote in that particular way. Maybe it's organized political demands. Maybe it's financial organizations. Maybe it's turning things into a conditionality. I don't pretend to have all the answers either. That's the part that I'm opening up to discuss. And hopefully y'all might have some answers. But I do think that there's a principle underneath all of this. And if there's no behavior that you can engage in that changes the other side's incentives, then we need to ask how much leverage you actually possess. And that's why this conversation really belongs here on Black Men on Code, because on code doesn't mean that every black man agrees politically. Like we don't have to believe in every particular approach. We don't have to believe in every particular position, but we do need to kind of work together and coordinate to move forward our interest. It doesn't mean that black men become Democrats. It doesn't mean that black men become Republicans. It doesn't mean that everybody on this panel is going to agree with me. And actually, I really hope you don't, because diversity of opinion is how you get some of the best outcomes, because you can check each other's blind spots. Code means understanding the game that we're participating in, understanding the incentive structures, understanding the institutions, understanding the negotiation, and understanding when loyalty produces reciprocity and when loyalty produces complacency. You can't negotiate effectively with a system you don't understand. That's why I believe that one of the most valuable things that we can develop here is systems literacy. Because once you can see the system, politics looks different. Let me see if I could pull up shoot, I gotta pull up another slide. They always kind of end up like cheaping me out on my slides. They're so cheap. Is it up? Is it up? There it is. All right. So this is what that looks like. So once you see the systems, politics looks different. Relationships look different. Media looks different. Businesses look different. Social status looks different. Even current events looks different. You stop asking who's wrong and you start asking what structures keep producing this outcome. So this is that slide you can kind of see. We're looking at the see, analyze, predict, respond, and guess what? Actually win part of this paradigm. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking because this is not supposed to be me yapping. This is about us coming together and us coming to some solutions. So hopefully we've gotten some stuff that we want to talk about that we can kind of discuss. And I have like some particular questions. Hopefully we get some of these resolutions to some of these questions because this is Black men comparing notes. That's what this is. And this morning, I want to put some particular questions to the panel. And I want to ask these questions like, can a constituency have real political power if everyone believes this vote is guaranteed? That's like the core premise of this. And I think that'll be pretty easy to answer. It's going to be like a resounding no, I think. And I want to test like some different propositions, not defend Democrats, not defend Republicans, not defend Trump, not defend Harris, but just kind of test some different propositions, basically. And, if I'm wrong, then, hey, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me where the model breaks. And we'll just kind of like go through and see what happens. Let me go ahead and put this link up. We'll see who comes up. Got that copied. Let me go on over. Hopefully. Okay, here it is. Hopefully y'all can see it. Whoa, did you say that Atlanta has the most surveillance cameras on Earth? That's wild. All right, so while y'all are coming up, I'm just gonna kind of run through some of these different questions. So, and also if you think that I'm right, let me know about that too. I love a good pat on the back, and let me know how we can like realistically implement some of the stuff that we're talking about. And basically, another kind of thing is we're not talking about just being unpredictable, by the way. Like just kind of voting in an unpredictable manner just for the sake of voting in an unpredictable manner isn't the same thing as actually getting us political power. Like we still have to find some type of way to translate our willingness to exit into actual demands being met. So that part can be kind of difficult to, get across and get done. So that's that part about like credible exit. Like, does credible exit require voting Republican, or, do we have to go and do something with primaries? Do we have to withhold endorsement turnout? Stuff like that. Do we have to kind of work through different independent organizations? Do we have to do something like an uncommitted style strategy that we saw in Michigan? Like what type of approach do we have to take in order to get outcomes that are actually beneficial? Is anybody trying to come up and not being able to come up? Because I thought that I saw something, but I guess I didn't. So in the meantime, we can kind of go back to some of these clips, especially the ones that we want to be talking about, that we want to be discussing. Oh, there goes Naima. Hey, what's up, Naima?
Good afternoon from this side of the Atlantic. And yes, the human encyclopedia has arrived, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Peace to you as well. It's very true.
Good to see you, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see
Hopefully
you.
we can get some answers. Like, cause this stuff is hard.
It's not as hard. It's just that sometimes it can get purposely overwhelming and purposely overcomplicated. for certain people to comprehend. And the fact that you're willing to do the research and look at things in a way that people can comprehend it is admirable and absolutely necessary, brother.
Thank you so much. I mean, I
Thank
was
you so
like,
much.
when I came across this, I've been kind of like ruminating over this stuff for a while. Like, how do we actually find some sort of a way to get out of this position where we just kind of are stuck with this vote blue, no matter who, and perpetually having our request either denied or our request put on pause, like, okay, this thing, I hear what you're saying, but it's not right now because this is more important, or that's more important, or the other thing is more important. We just kind of get perpetually put to the back burner, and then at the same time we'll see other people's interests being brought more to the forefront, and it's like your loyalty is punished with inaction. And you can see that in relationship dynamics as well. Like the same thing that you see in the relationship dynamic, you see that play out in the political dynamic. And we have this this urge to or this emphasis on kind of like, I don't know how to call it. I shouldn't call it that, but it's kind of like political simping, you know?
Let me put it this way. What we have is a political form of Briefo's law.
Oh, explain that. Go and dive into that.
Briefo's law, we understand in the manosphere, was a law invented through the anthropological research of one Robert Briffaut, a British-born French anthropologist. Now, unfortunately, conservatives despise that name because of his views on socialism, which were rather favorable. But Briffaut's law states it is the human female. No, sorry, it is the female, not the male, who determines the future of the family. Where the female cannot derive any benefit from the male, no association shall take place. And in MGTOW circles, they added 3 addendums to that. Number 1, the relationship is null and void as soon as the female receives the benefit. Number 2, past benefit does not guarantee future association. Number 3, the likelihood of the female reciprocating the association is inversely inverse to the time that benefit can take place. In other words, the longer you wait for her to reciprocate, the less likely it will be. And this comes from the female sense of having mistrust for the male. So in this case, this is political. This is the political form of Briefo's law. They only engage with us when they engage with the black vote when it is beneficial to them. But they refuse to fulfill their end of the bargain because they believe that the contract is complete and null and void once they receive the benefit. It's a one-sided arrangement. It's almost like parasitism, but they expect you to go back to everything. And every time you bring up the past, they're like, that was then, this is now, as one of the addendums explains. Because they operate on a what have you done for me lately, which goes in reverse of nature of politics, because it is supposed to be the voters who look at the politicians and say, what have you done for us lately?
Yeah.
Basically, we talked about how the black community goes in contradiction to nature. It is not just in the social dynamics. We see this also in politics. in multiple. We see this. We see Black people operating in reverse to nature in more than one way. We only usually talk about it in the social sense, but in the political arena, the same goes. And the political leaders and politicians are well aware of that. But go ahead.
I think that one of the dynamics, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get Tunnel Runner, and then I'm gonna get Black Trump in for their opening statements. But I think that the misconception that we have is the same one that we see in the dating dynamic, in a way where we think that we're paying into a savings account of goodwill, like all the different things that we end up doing. We think that, okay, well, if I show you my loyalty, if I give you my vote, if I give you my allegiance, then I'm going to get that reciprocity back, because it's going into this overall savings account of goodwill. And what we don't realize is that it's not a savings account. It's maybe at best a debit account, or it's just an open pit.
It's an open pit. Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. And here's the thing. Under certain circumstances, will they reciprocate? But that reciprocation is not out of obligation. They only reciprocate when it is in their best influence and their best interest to do so, or when outside forces compel them to do so. So the thing is, right here, the Black vote does not have the leverage. It appears they do not have the leverage, but actually they do have the leverage to compel a certain amount of reciprocity to happen. But they're not in control of how, or to what extent the other side will reciprocate. Right. Reciprocate, excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. Not working today with my tongue.
I can relate. I can definitely relate to that. I've been stumbling like a little bit on my tenses today too. Because I'm also like eating too. Like that brings me over there to Tunnel Runner. I'm eating this waffle, but I made this waffle myself and I forgot to put my bananas on it. I bet you didn't have that problem. Like you probably got like a nice, banana pancakes or something like that, or coconut pancakes with banana on them.
Well, yesterday I had coconut pancakes. Today I had chicken breast. I had eggs, some sausage, and coffee. And then she had some water where she put some apple cider vinegar and cinnamon in the water.
Oh,
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, keep me, whatever. Anyway, everything is good, and hopefully, and continuing to go well, but it'll get better. But the thing is, the system has constantly tried to put us to sleep. And when I say put us to sleep, is that when we start making progress, when we start to activate and unite and get together, the system is trying to set up to put us back to sleep, because that's when we're the most dangerous, when we are activated. And by feeding us to sleep is to give us a little something and then try to put the women in charge so that we don't activate and do what we need to do. So this whole system, and by some of us going to changing parties and trying to be more independent and us be the leaders, that's what wakes us up. But we have to be organized and understand, what do we try to get. That's when we make our most political strides, is when we are organized and we are all set up for certain goals that we're trying to get. And so if that's being reactivated, and that we're not falling asleep, we can get some things done. And I'll land right there and hear Black Trump.
Yeah, I think before I get to Black Trump, I'm getting right in after this thought, like, because you put something out there that I kind of want to think about, and that's the coordination and working together part there. I think that maybe the reason that we see a lot of the status quo is because the status quo is easy. I mean, it's
Correct.
just so easy to let's just vote blue no matter who. So easy to do that. Like saying, okay, well, if you're in a red state and you're able to go ahead and demonstrate that you are willing to vote for a third party and just let people know that you have this ability out there, like getting into all the nuance can be an additional form of complexity. So trying to explain somebody is trying to get somebody to go along with complexity is a little bit harder than getting somebody to go along with simplicity. So whatever you do try to do that's in a work together coordination type of vein is going to have to be extremely simple, in my humble opinion. All right, let's get Black Trump.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. To the question, well, first of all, I think Black people don't have a full understanding of what politics is, what politics means, and how politics operate. If you're not pumping money into the system is not going to represent you. If you don't have think tanks, and you don't have think tanks and you don't have your own policies, the political system is not going to represent you. So you got to understand something. There is the Kennedy School of Public Policy from Harvard. Yale has their own policy and things like that. You got to look at academics. Academics push certain policies to the government. Then super PACs push money into these systems. And then voila, you get people fighting for you. Why do you think Asians have an Asian bill? Because they have money that they can pump into the system. They're 2% of the population. Your vote doesn't matter. What matters is, do you have lobbies like Water Street, right? All major corporations employ 1 or 2 lobbyists that all work on Water Street in Washington, D.C., pushing the agendas, pumping money into the system. Because that's what a republic is. So, and the biggest issue with Black people is we don't like following best practices. We think we know better than everybody in the world. And we don't like to look and see what's a winning strategy, emulate that strategy for us. That's why you can see Asians ahead of us, Latinos ahead of us, and the LGBTQ are ahead of us as well when it comes to political power, political stake. And we think simply just changing sides is going to do something for us, instead of learning from other people who have made positive inroads, especially the LGBTQ. And I'll leave it there for now.
I think that makes that there's a point there that you made with that, because a lot of times when you get down to it, you can answer a lot of questions by following the money, but more importantly, following the money feedback loop. Like you go and then you put some money into the system, and then you get that system to result in policy that puts more money into your pocket, and then you put your money into that system, which then gets more policy that benefits you to put more money into your pocket. And so you end up having like a positive feedback loop that ultimately benefits you.
Right.
But
like, for example, Howard Law, DC, HSBCU. What policies and white papers have they put to push the agenda for Black America? Harvard does it. Penn Law does it. Yale Law does it.
does that mean that it has to be necessarily an academic system? Or are there other institutions that can do the same thing? Like, is the Urban League doing anything? Are 100 Black men doing anything?
But most of the time, when you look at other people, it's either think tanks that are like independently funded, or it's academia. Right? It's academia. We don't do that. We just get together. We all run for office. It does again. The system doesn't run like that.
I think that that's the attempt at the silver bullet. Like, silver bullet is another way of just kind of getting into simplistic solutions. And I think that there may be a cause for that. There may be a place for that when you're trying to address people in aggregate. When you're trying to address a whole lot of people at the same time, then you have to be as simple as possible. But when you're trying to get particular specialized things done, then you have to get into a little bit more of the detail when you're talking to the expert base. So it's like two different conversations that could be running in parallel.
But I mean, think tanks, lobbyists don't really talk to the common white person. That's another mistake.
That's true. Let me know if any of you all want to get in on this too. I don't want to like go ahead and just monopolize the whole conversation.
Mm-hmm. Am I hearing an echo?
Yeah, there's kind of an echo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh wait, now it's
hopefully it's not on mine. Okay, good. To Black Trump's point, nobody follows the money, but how much of it is incentive? And also, the analogy you were using earlier when I talked about political repo, let's just say instead of a deposit or a money pit, what y'all are engaging in is a penny slot type of form of arrangement with the politicians, or a penny slot, penny slot politics. You know how people be throwing pennies into a slot machine?
Oh yeah.
So it's a political slot machine you guys are basically playing with, hoping to come up 3 in a row. But the machine is rigged for you not to achieve that. So we're dealing with a political slot machine that's designed to keep people wasting away. But also to what also to Trump's point, Trump's point here, nobody follows where the money goes and how these other groups are able to organize. But also, more importantly, some of these groups, they started off by co-opting and aligning themselves with Black groups. So that's something that needs to be considered as well.
You guys are totally missing my point.
Oh, you need to clarify? Okay, go.
Okay, clarify.
Like, it's not about where the money. Like I said, super PACs. You know where the money is. It goes to running campaigns. It goes to advertisements. What I'm saying is that we do not fund our candidates. We do not provide policies that our candidates want to run on and get done for us. These are the things I'm talking about, because it's not really about. It's really, really, really not about votes. It's about investing, right? It's about investing in your council, investing in your city legislature and things like that. Vote and fund the guy who's running, so then in return, he push bills that are favorable to us, regardless if he's Republican or Democrat. You have colleges right now, right? What is it? Howard and Morehouse that can come up with strategies and things like that to get more funding for urban schools, and then we, the people, fund the councilmen who agreed to push that policy.
So
That's
what you're saying?
I'm talking about.
All right. So what you're saying essentially is that, okay, how can you expect for this politician to represent you if this politician is bought and paid for by somebody else with their action plan formulated by somebody else?
So politicians, right? Other people, when this politician is running, right? He got policy and implementation from Harvard. He got investments from super PACs, right? To say, okay, push this agenda, right? And then he got the the grassroots people that go knock door to door and say vote for this person, whatever, right? They invest in this person, and it doesn't really matter if he's Democrat or Republican. Doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, they vote and they push different agendas that they want to see for their community, and that's best practices. That's how it works. But we don't want to do that.
So then would you say the answer is take money out of politics? Like, because that's been a chant that people have been talking about for a while as well.
No. It just means you do what wins. That's all it means. Do what wins, right? So Black people Instead of spending that $50 on Alizé this weekend, collect that shit up and then pay your politician. That's what that means. Don't change the system, because the program has been here long before you, and the program will be here long after you. No one is bigger than a program. No one.
Can we practically accomplish that with the racial wealth gap that we currently have, though?
Look at Asians, 2% of the population. And they got all types of bills pushed at them. Yes, black people. Yes.
Yeah, let me jump in here.
Oh,
Let
I'm
me jump in
sorry. I
here because I
forgot
agree.
entirely to get you in here, Bronk. I'm not bad.
Nah, you good. You good. Because I agree with a lot of what Hot Sauce is saying. In the black community, man, the black community is simply a bunch of beggars when it comes to the world of politics. And Democrats have, since the 1960s, been able to take full advantage of the fact that black America has reduced themselves to begging when it comes to politics. Hot Sauce is absolutely right when he says that, we have the capital to essentially put money into the system towards the people that we want representing us for them to get stuff done for us. If you look at the 2020 election, right, black people have shown their ability to be able to raise money. Okay. Black Lives Matter, the organization, raised $90 million in 2020. It's not a small number. Not a small number. But look where black people, and other people who claim to support black people put that money. They put it into BLM, which is an LGBT community, not not an organization that particularly cared about the advancement of black men. It just used the tragedy of a black man dying at the hands of police to push forward their own agenda. Right. So yeah, we definitely have the ability to go out there and raise money to get actual representation, but we just don't organize well enough to do that because the black community is split. Right. It's so bad in our community that a presidential candidate can get on TV and say, well, if you don't vote for me, or if you're having trouble deciding between who you're going to vote for, me or Trump, then you ain't black. That's the
Yeah, I
state
need
of
to
our
play that one
community,
again.
man. That's the state of our community, and that's what we accept, right? We don't have think tanks. We don't have people who get together and organize for the advancement of the entire black community. In order for us to actually have that, you got to have people who are actually advocating for the black family, right? For keeping the black family intact. If you look at one thing that I do as I go back and I watch the videos of the civil rights leaders like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. I don't want to get too far off topic here, but Martin Luther King actually spoke out against welfare. He called it a great societal evil. Welfare. He spoke about how he saw men strung out on drugs because of the welfare state. Right. So that's something that he pushed back against, but that's something that largely we as the black community have accepted. And it's been one of the things that have been destroying our families. And the civil rights leaders even spoke out about this before it got as bad as it is today. Right. And I believe a lot of what they proposed politically is what got them assassinated in the first place. Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X. They had to get them up out of here because they knew when we had black men speaking like that against specific policies that would destroy the black community over time, they didn't want us to band behind that. And now that kind of evolved into what we have today, where they can easily secure our vote just because we're black. I'm laying my plane there for now, man.
All right. One quick point of clarification there. Now, with Black Lives Matter, they actually didn't just get their money from black folk. They kind of got their money from corporations too. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
said
kind of like
that's why I
yeah.
said and people. That's why I said and people who claim to be supporting the black community as well. That's why I said that. Because at the end of the day, underneath that, it's about black advancement. It's why they donated that money to Black Lives Matter, so-called. That's why they say they did it, right? But we all know that ain't the truth.
Yeah, let me see if I can go and pull this up because I think that some people might not have caught this in the beginning because I played it way earlier. But you weren't just joking when you were talking about that discussion over there with Charlemagne. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that for anybody who might have missed it.
November, we got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love.
So like everybody like kind of pretty much heard that first part where he says, "Oh, okay, well, if you can't figure out voting for me, then you ain't black or whatever." But like they didn't, they kind of glossed over the next part where Charlemagne was like, "Wait a minute here, like this ain't really about Trump. It's about like what I want for my community." And then he ends up essentially being cut off where Joe ends up rambling about, oh, I did this, I did that, I extended the Voting Rights Act. And that part there, like that I extended the Voting Rights Act for 20 years or something of that nature, like that's really just kind of like dangling a carrot in front of you. Like if you were really serious about the thing, you would have made that thing permanent rather than something that you just kind of, oh, let's extend it for a little while. Let's extend it a little while longer. Let's extend it a little while longer. That's why you end up with a situation where we can just say, okay, well, we're going to just axe this part. We're going to axe that part. We're going to axe this other part. Like a lot of these things that are just like continuing resolutions are really not anything that are solid. It's more of a way to just kind of keep dangling this carrot in front of your face.
But see, this is where our academia comes in at. This is where the think tanks come in at, saying, hey, these are things that are extremely detrimental to the freedom and the advancement of black people. So politician A, politician B, we're going to put together a $30 million pact. We're going to get you in. And then you're going to work across the aisle to cement this and make it permanent. So we don't need to. It doesn't need to be ratified every 30 years, 40 years, whatever, right? So it no longer needs to be ratified. And that's the things we need. And so again, when we have money, it's easier for our guy to go work across the aisle. Say, hey, Senator B, you're trying to get this stadium built. Well, I can give you 10 mil, 20 mil, 30 mil to get this deal done. Right? Are you trying to bring jobs back or whatever? Okay, my guys are happy to invest in that, invest in your community. See, this is where the money comes in at. So he can show his track record of jobs, whatever. Approval rating goes up, he gets votes. Right? But this again, this is where our academic HBCUs are letting us down. Because they're supposed to be our think tanks. Right? When I went to Kennedy School for public policy, bro, they taught me how to write. They taught me how to put together different grants and things like that, and they told me how to put together different policies and legislation.
Yeah, and today we essentially just giving it away for free, man. We don't demand anything. We allow them to make false promises, false and empty promises, and we give them our vote based off of false and empty promises.
Our vote don't matter. To be honest, black people haven't done shit. We haven't done shit. To be honest, we haven't done shit. Our voting means nothing. We haven't done anything. Mm-hmm. If we haven't put together policies that we want to push and money behind it, we haven't done anything.
I'm kind of like, I'm still kind of on the fence there about this whole idea of that like vote doesn't matter, because basically it's one of the few tools that you do actually have to actually deal with any type of power in the system. Like if you just kind of deal with who has the most money, then that's like a small fraction of the population. If you deal with, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, the vote would matter if the policies that were being.
Let me say this real quick. You're missing the point, right? Because okay, I'll prove it to you. Segregation, right? Mm-hmm. We voted against segregation. However, America today is still 68% segregated, even though segregation is technically off the books.
Illegal.
Mm-hmm. You're I mean, off the books meaning now it's illegal. Before it was illegal. Your vote don't matter. Right? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, you have to push policy, and that requires money. This is a republic.
See, that's what I was just saying.
Money, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So it requires money. That's why your vote don't matter, because all the things that we fought for, black people don't get. If we list down every single thing we fought for in the civil rights, black men especially do not enjoy these benefits. DEI, white women, LGBT, right?
Man.
Segregation still exists.
Hmm.
Discrimination still exists. All the
Yeah,
things we
even
fought
Martin
for,
Luther King,
march
even
for,
Martin Luther King at the end of all of that, said that I'm
still
afraid
exist.
I've integrated us into a burning house.
Right? So you can't sit here and say that your vote matter, because you don't vote for the person, you vote for something. From 1960s to today, right? All the things we
Hmm.
voted for to get rid of. However, why are they still here? Why do they still exist unofficially?
Because they
They've
find
evolved
well
loopholes in
they
it, and they've
find
evolved.
they find more complex ways to keep out the policies that are trying to be pushed forth for our advancement. So for instance, well, since they're going to integrate, well, let's redline now, right?
Hmm.
Let's make sure that let's deny them access to our communities as a response to integration laws, right? So let's separate that way. Let's just make sure that they can't get the same home loan secured as we can. Let's keep them there, and we move to this location right here, and that'll solve the integration problem.
And see, and
So
this
they
is
always find ways to respond to it.
public policy comes in, because King and those guys, they were 20 something, right? They were 20 something. They did miraculous jobs for that age.
Yeah,
But when you go and you sit with the president and negotiate, you got to know policy.
yeah.
You got to know policy. What does it look like? How we shape it, right? We'll write it and give it to you. That's when Ice Cube came in with that policy. We had economists, and policy writers. That meeting with Trump, that was correct, and black people shitted on him for that. But that is how you do it. But he's a millionaire, right? He's a multimillionaire, so he has been exposed to the game.
Let me
Yeah.
go ahead and play him again in case anybody missed that, because like we have people that might be coming just in just now. But let me go ahead and play Cube real quick.
Democratic National Party held a convention. A lot of people, getting up there and talking, and, everybody really, eating it up, throwing their hands in the air like they just don't care damn near. So it's what I didn't hear is what's in it for us? What's in it for the black community? The way it look, they don't have a plan. Everybody's, talking about get Trump out, get Trump out, get Trump out. If you vote, that's going to happen on the first day. So now what? Trump out, now what? What? What do we get in the first 100 days? That's what we're trying to figure out. What do we actually get that they could give us overnight like that? 42% of black businesses closing. None of that money. Where's the bailout? Not the PPP loan that they didn't give us. Where's the bailout? I don't want to hear about deficit. I don't want to hear about what our generations gonna have to pay. Because if we don't have shit, they ain't gonna have shit anyway to pay nothing. So we gotta start something right now. Democrats don't seem like they got a plan. Republicans don't seem like they got a plan for us. So how the hell you gonna vote for them? Make them earn that vote. They can start today. They ain't got it yet. They can start today. Make their ass earn that vote, man. Stop playing with these people, and they'll stop playing with you.
Going back to what you said earlier about the Asian example, So the difference between us and the Asians, yes, they're like 2% of the population, but they also have more disposable income per person, like in an individual basis type deal. Like if you're talking about like us, like yeah, we basically we have a higher population, yeah, but then a whole bigger part of our check is going into survival. So you kind of
No,
go
no,
into
no, 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 no. That is not true. That black people are not as broke as you think. Black
we're
people,
middle
if you
class
look
for the
at
most part. We're middle class.
right, so if you look at like for example, weave and hair weave alone $1 trillion business, bro. Asians per capita, yeah, maybe they have more, right? But at the end of the day, it's about the dollar amount. Asians might can bring in 100 million, blacks can bring in 300 million. I don't care about the individual. The bottom line is they can't outspend us as a group. That's the bottom line.
In terms
Yeah,
of
but
wealth,
Yeah, in total amount,
they,
in total amount, Asians cannot outspend blacks.
what he's saying is
I'm
number
gonna have to.
wise, we are spending more than what Asians are spending. So there's different. We all know this. There's different money habits, right? Black people, we have a reputation for spending. You know, we like the Jordans, we like the fancy shit, right? Asians don't have that type of culture. They are workers and savers first. So they have a saver mentality, whereas we have a spending mentality. But unfortunately, the things that we spend all that money on aren't benefiting us, right? We're not going to allocate our money to supporting a political candidate, right? We're going to allocate our money to that next pair of Jordans that's coming out, to getting fitted up and going out to the club and spending money on bottle service and stuff like that. So we definitely spending money, just not on the right thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing though. That means it's more debt, basically.
But the point is, what he said, 42% of black businesses are cold closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the black business school? Where's Tuskegee or Clark Atlanta? What's a good HSBC business school? Writing policy for bailout.
North Carolina AT&T, yeah.
A&M. Here we go. Florida A&M. Why are they not writing bailout policies that helps black businesses to get bailed out? Or why don't we have Morehouse writing policies to instill black farmers, writing policies to promote and start promoting black farmers, getting kids out of high school interested in agriculture. Tuskegee, because that's where you need to go to learn agriculture.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some pretty decent agriculture programs throughout the different HBCUs. So
Okay,
I wouldn't say it's only that
motherfuckers
one.
ain't writing it. Those motherfuckers should be writing it. Then
Yeah.
then we should be funding it, and that's that.
Yeah, and you know, under Trump's presidency in 2016, I think he passed that piece of legislation that perpetually issued about $250 million towards HBCUs and minority institutions. I think about 80 million of that a year is going towards HBCUs. So there are some resources right there that they can tap into to actually get these things done. So it's interesting to figure out what that.
You just tell your PhD students and your master students, MBA students, this is your thesis to graduate. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, 80 million a year perpetually is coming from Congress right now towards HBCU. So there's some money they can tap into right there, man.
right legislation that we can present, and then have your Byron Islands. Well, no, they're sellouts, but have your local business people and your local churches alone, black church alone collectively make $50 million a weekend. We have the money.
Yeah, but let's be real though, hot sauce. Yeah, so we have the money there to do it right now. We got to be real about why that's not being done.
a lot of these so-called pro-black, want black advancement in all areas. A lot of these so-called people who say they want that actually don't want that.
No.
They
But
want to be a part of that.
if you tell black people, listen, first we need to set up lobby. Next, we need to write policy from our academics, and then we have lobbyists to go push that policy, and we give them money. Black people are like, no, we can do this through the vote. No, that don't seem right. Why we got paid for this? Why we got paid for that? Everybody fucking pays. Well, that's not right. Right? We don't want to do things that work.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it safe to just assume at this point that these people don't know better?
They don't need, the average person doesn't need to know better, right?
I'm talking about the ones that we have in leadership positions that can actually speak with the people who actually are directly connected to the people they can have these conversations with. You say what now?
They sold out. The leadership sold
Yeah,
out.
exactly. So that's the whole point I'm making. It's like the people that we currently have in leadership right now that can start these conversations because they're in a network with people who we can have these conversations with. I'm not putting Ice Cube in that mix at all because I think he's done a great job for what he's proposed, and he's been able to get together a team and have serious conversations even with the president himself. So it's outside of him, most of the leaders, so-called leaders in the black community, they selling out, man, and that's a bigger part of the reason why we're not getting this stuff pushed through in the first place.
Well, let's dive into that. That, like, what do you think the mechanism is for selling out? I mean, do you think that maybe it might have something to do with we live with our current existing institution, and if you're going through life existing in that current institution, then at one point or another you're ending up co-opted in that institution because you're in that same you're in that framework anyway, and that framework does not want to be competitive with you. It wants you to be a resource for it, but it doesn't want to be competing with you.
I don't think it's that. I think that I honestly think that a lot of the so-called black leaders, they are corrupt as hell. Like, for instance, Cori Bush, who was a representative here in Missouri for North County. She was spending $30,000 a month on private security using government funds, right, and donation funds. You know who her security team was?
Who's that?
You know who her security was?
Whom?
Her boyfriend, which is now her husband.
So that sounds
You don't say.
That sounds a little bit like the mayor, the previous mayor here. In
Now, mind you, and New Orleans is another one of those very corrupt cities when it comes to politics. They have a long history of it. But I make that point to say, I'll also add that Cori Bush hasn't passed a single piece of legislation during her entire time in office. She lost that seat. It's got replaced by Wesley Bell. But anyways, I make that point to say, like, that's what we're dealing with. They're corrupt individuals, just like the corrupt individuals that we're trying to speak out against. So it's not like that I don't believe it's that they feel the need to, be ingrained in that. It's just who they are. And we kind of get them a way out when we, say, oh, well, they have to, essentially do certain things in order to be able to survive in the world of politics. Like, they just as corrupt as the ones we got.
I think that it's worth considering, like, the incentive structure there. So, like, would you say that maybe you have a system that incentivizes people that are willing to be transgressive?
Yeah, absolutely. There definitely is a framework where they absorb you into the fold, because at the end of the day, they don't want, when you're going against the status quo, you're creating friction, right? And nobody wants that friction. So they absorb you, and they absorb you with money. They absorb you with holes. And see, the thing about it is, though, and I hate to say this, and maybe I'm going to get canceled, but black people make it easy to sell them out because niggas are exhausting. They're exhausting. You sit there, you try to tell them what they want to do. You have 80 years of fucking expertise. And here this Johnny come lately nigga gonna sit here and tell you with no experience whatsoever that they know better than you. You goddamn right I'm gonna sell out. It's hard helping black people. Real talk. It's even God was like, y'all niggas are a lot.
I don't know what to say with that one, actually. I don't know what the response is to this.
I would say this though.
Wait.
I'm in a leadership
Neighbor hasn't
position.
talked for a while.
I'll just say this: if I'm in a leadership position,
All right, hot sauce.
somebody gave me money and hoes, absolutely, I'm out.
Nah, don't sell out.
Hey, can you blame him? I don't hold it against him. In fact, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised either. But it is what it is. Let's not forget also how much time is going to be required to do the things the House President just mentioned now. Writing policy, formulating strategies. These are not just overnight things and not talking about getting things done overnight. These are long-term commitments. So what we need what's required is lobbyists, policymakers, politicians who are willing to play the long game, even though the fact is, like, they have to worry about every 2 years or every so often, every number of years, that you will have to be up for re-election. And the campaign contributions have to be there. Otherwise, other groups may try to either come to you and say, we're willing to offer you more if you're willing to go for our policy. Otherwise, we can spend money seeing you get voted out. We have the means. Because people forget, congressmen, legislative, people who are in the legislative, they spend, especially in Capitol Hill, they spend the majority of time working phones, getting campaign contributions.
Mm-hmm.
People forget about that. So they have to work phones, have meetings with certain lobbyists or representatives of certain organizations, and meet up with policymakers as well. And those groups, they don't care if that politician is there or another one comes in. The politician who's ever holding that seat is going to do their bidding, because these are long-term plans that they're committed to. They will make adjustments here and now, depending on the changes in the circumstances of the political environment. But their goal is still the same. It's going to be this or bust. And they're hell-bent on achieving those goals. And these are long-term plans, like I said, that some people do not understand, whether we're talking about at the federal, state, county, or local level. And the average person does not have the attention span to do it, especially nowadays with the advent of social media, how that has changed the attention span and viewership habits of most viewers. When was the last time anybody was able to sit still and watch a YouTube video that was longer than 5 minutes? I myself personally have that problem sometimes. It feels like I got to change every once in a while because I'm losing interest or something. Or it has to be something that really interests me to watch. And most people are very fickle about who they vote for, because their focus is on day to day. Because most people who vote, they're focused on what's immediately affecting them.
Yeah,
so they're focused on the day to day.
Yeah, that's kind of where.
And more important, let me finish. I'll land with this. And here's something that people forget regarding the voting block. How many people ever took a course, especially in high school, in civics, or had that course removed from their schools when they were in high school? Same thing with home economics, because these things go hand in hand. And I land with that.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I kind of like circle back in on this topic about the power of people. Like, the power of people is like a real physical thing in the real world. Like, we see all these different systems, the political system and the financial system and all of these different social structures that are organizing people. That's essentially all that is, just organizing the labor, the time, and the efforts of people. But when you kind of go and look at these things in macro, like it's all just like around this concept of organizing structures and organizing systems, and maybe we can get a structure or a system that organizes us into a more powerful position. So I can't really totally just put everything on just the whole follow the money, because we'll look at the money tomorrow, and then what would buy you a house today will buy you a car tomorrow. Will buy you a car tomorrow will buy you a refrigerator the next day, and we'll buy you a refrigerator the
Hey,
next day,
inspired.
we'll end up buying you a pair of Jordans. You know, like it just kind of goes down and down and down and down for that. Like it's an art. It's basically an artificial system, and you depower people when you rely too much on the organizing system rather than looking at the power structure instead. So don't ever think that you don't have power, because you do have power in the real world. Actually, what you have to have is like the ability and the will to actually use it. Oh,
Inspired.
and
Remember,
this person did ask a question, so I hopefully we can get to that question that they put out there, which is what are the black political focuses besides reparations and reformism? I guess that's reformism, but reparations is probably the key most important thing, because that one addresses the wealth gap. Like it's basically just a right sizing of what our actual value is in this American system. Like we just had a whole lot of extraction from us in terms of time and effort and energy that went to bolstering the wealth and assets of other groups. And getting some of that back, clawing some of that back, puts us in a better social position if we can find a way to do it. But it's not the only thing. Like we also have like a lot of our daily survival stuff. But if you have that wealth distribution part addressed, it ends up addressing everything else in terms of like basically a domino effect. When you go and you look at the criminal justice disparities, your access to a good attorney makes a world of difference. We go and you look at our healthcare disparities, then that kind of comes into play there too. Like a whole lot of these different things kind of go and surround our relative wealth gap, and then and basically all these deleterious consequences, either one way directly spawn from it or indirectly spawn from it. Also that in terms of like where we live too, like because we're in proximity to like fence line communities, we have economic racism. A whole lot of that is kind of tied to what house we could buy. But Bronk, you finna say something? Was it relate?
Yeah.
Bronk,
You
then after
alluded.
him, me.
Okay,
You
sure
alluded
thing.
to something earlier, like where we are organized and started to build our own power structure. Well, Black Panthers was a perfect example of us organizing and building our own power structure, and I believe that would have led to the first Black political party that was, getting actual presidential candidates on the ballot. I think Black Panthers, if they didn't do what they did to the early leaders of that organization, that's where the Black Panthers would be today. All right. I don't think that the government puts that type of effort in dismantling such a strong Black political presence without knowing what that could turn into long term. I don't think J. Edgar Hoover takes those measures.
Oh shoot, I think you cut out. I don't hear you anymore.
All right.
It's still kind of messed up, but
All right. What about now?
okay, yeah, now it's working.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's something. Yeah, my Bluetooth disconnected for a little bit. But I don't think that Congress or even the FBI makes those type of efforts to dismantle that if they didn't know what that could lead to long term. When you think about the Black Panthers, right? Black Panthers were actually getting some things done. Some of the things they were getting done actually translated to some of the things you see in government today, like the free school lunch. That was a Black Panther thing. Black Panthers would make sure that every kid in the community had something to eat. All right. And as they dismantled the Black Panther Party, that was one of the things that the government took with them and integrated into their own system. So there are instances in American history where you do see Black people organizing well together. Even the Black Panthers started to teach black people about their own gun rights. They started to control their own communities and be their own police, so to speak. So there's a perfect example of it, but that was the response to it. So anytime we come up as black people in this nation and organize well enough, there's always a response to it. So what we need to do is learn how to evolve to be able to properly respond to the response to what we're doing to advance ourselves, right? And I don't think we've up to this point been able to figure that out as well as we need to figure that out.
I
So,
think I think that's a really great point that you put up there because they basically did things right. They did like everything down the line right. It's like you have a right to bear arms, so you bared those arms. Like you have a right to organize, so they organized. Like you can go and look at some of these other examples too, like with strikes. Like okay, well strikes worked for white people, then we try to do it while we're being sharecroppers, and then you end up with the Thibodeau massacre. Like, I mean, when we do things right, we get punished severely.
yeah,
Like we do things in a way that's productive to us, and the system does not like us being competitive for real. Like it'll pretend that it wants us to be competitive. It'll say, "Oh, if you Negroes just get your act together and you do things right, then you'll get all these great glorious things and whatnot." And then when we go ahead and we do that, they pull the rug right from others and say, "Rule change. We didn't mean for that to apply to you." And then you end up
yeah,
with Panthers in jail for crimes that they know that we didn't commit. Like we'll have guys in jail for a homicide when they were in a whole nother city. And they knew that, and the FBI knew he was in a whole nother city. And he still had him in prison all those years.
yeah.
That
No
was,
good deed goes unpunished. That's a perfect example, right?
yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished. So I think we give them a lot of grace when we don't plan for their response, right? I think we miss that a lot. We don't sit down and plan for their response. We have to know that we're dealing with an evil people,
Well,
and that we have to have an appropriate response to deal with the evil that they'll send our way.
I
absolutely. Let me
think the
get you in,
answer is
Karan.
right here, and we see that. And I think Black Trump could talk to this. I see in communities that are successful, that are smaller than us, they control their schools. They have private schools they send their kids to. They control those schools. They pay for those schools, and then they pay for those high schools. And when they send them to college, they have them set up in a system, and that becomes a political system that they can follow all the way to the top. But you have to, I would think we get lost in these school systems. We get lost in these other systems that we're not in control of. If we could have these churches, and I mean, you could see in all other religions, but except for the blacks, you have these big mega churches and you don't have a school connected to it. That is the perfect situation to control your environment, control your children, to control the political situation in this country. And black people, we do not do it. And if we start doing that, that small little thing would be the same. I mean, we would get these kids to be able to go into college and to be in the system, and we would have money coming back to us from the government. So it's a whole system that we need to be in control of. And we need to start doing private schools and raising our kids and controlling their education and controlling and and setting them up, teaching them how to be productive men and women in America.
Well, I'll say this to your point. Um, well, I know Asians for example, right? Asians, they have community centers in Chinatown, right? So for the what do they call, like, to the second generation, the one that were born in America, not born overseas, right? They have cultural enrichment programs that they go every weekend where they learn their native language, whether it's Korean, Japanese, or Chinese or whatever. They get to meet other Chinese kids like them. They learn about their history, they learn about their culture, they learn how to work together, things like that, right?
Yes.
So that's what's at their community centers, at least for Asians. So when
And
their
the
population,
small
Community
had to do
center
that
is
to
huge.
the extreme.
well, say it again.
The small hats.
Oh well, that's a whole nother thing. Everything runs through the synagogue with them.
Yes,
That's
yes, yes.
that's
That's
the
what I'm
whole.
talking about.
Yeah, everything runs in the synagogue with them, and that's. Well, I mean, well, that's the
That's the
community,
power
right? So
source.
yeah, Everything runs through the synagogue. So
And we can do the same thing, and we would be we could generate some power.
Well, I mean, but see, but that's the thing though. Like with the small hats, they do the same thing. They have the lobbyists. They are the lobbyists, right? They
Yeah.
are the lobbyists. They're the lawyers, and then they write policy. I mean, look, UPenn is Jewish for the most part. Wharton and Penn Law is Jewish. Temple University is Jewish. I mean it's hard to compare small hats to anybody else because they actually have the most elite institutions when it comes to that, right? So that's Harvard is practically Jewish. Most Ivy Leagues, when it comes to law and policy making, are majority Jewish.
Shoot,
Populations
law is prime. Law in of itself, man.
But you know, when they first came over here, they were separated, and they kept their own institutions, and they made them stronger and stronger. So I'm saying to us that we as black people need to support our black schools, private schools, and you know, we have the money. Like I say, we have the churches, and we need to keep that going on. That's how they got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I point out the fact that a lot of our so-called black leaders are swindlers themselves, man. Just think about if you go to some of the most impoverished black communities around the nation, stop in those churches. Stop in those churches and tell me what you see. Pastor doing good. You know,
Man,
pastor driving a 750 BMW.
you
Right?
see black people giving their lives,
Man,
can't afford
that's
rent.
what you see. You see that bucket going around 2, 3, 4 times. You see guest speakers come in and preach this emotional sermon. The whole church done get emotional. They you keep them full of hope. And then those people who struggling to pay their light bill, putting $10, $20, $50 in the bucket because this out of town preacher done came and had a revival. So they getting swindled, man. It's a hustle. I tell you what a good hustle is. If you want a good hustle, become a preacher and go to impoverished black communities and practice on your charisma, practice on delivering a powerful sermon, an emotional sermon, and watch how much money you can make in a year.
Yep, and when the money's not enough, the pastor gonna be like, close the doors.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, we see this, man.
And they don't even have an after-school program because they already have the
No,
building.
right.
They already have teachers in the congregation. It's so easy for them to do, but they're not doing it. And
The after school
we as the
program,
black people are not focusing on them doing it. We're not
the
making
after
sure
school
that they do.
program is Wednesday night Bible study. That's the
I know,
after school program,
but
and
that's
they get an
but
offering
other
at that
communities
too.
are not doing that. Other communities are educating their
Black
children, are doing
churches,
it because you already have the building, you already have the teachers. It's just just to
black
organize to
churches,
get it done. And we used
black
to do it
churches,
way back in the day.
black churches nationwide brings in $50 million a weekend. A weekend.
I can believe it, man.
So Sunday, tomorrow, all that money gonna be tallied up is gonna be 50 million or more this weekend.
That's wild.
Next week
Yeah,
is the same.
man.
But nothing goes back to the black community.
No, but the pastor need a new private jet.
To be fair,
I
they
mean,
are.
you got preachers who literally last name is Dollar. Come on, man.
That is wild. But now, to be fair, they are supposed to be doing things like having a fund for helping out people that can't pay their light bills and stuff like that. And I know that in some of these churches, like you'll actually have people go ahead and get that. But I mean, there's like a certain point where they will kind of like cut you off after a while. You can't just come back there over and over again.
You know that if you read the book of Acts, it actually tells you how the church should have operated because it gives you an example of how the early church operated. There should be no class divisions in the church, just so you know. Okay. Everybody in the church that calls themselves a part of the church should literally, and Jesus has said this plenty of times when he even instructed the rich man to go and sell everything he has and divide up everything amongst the poor. So there's supposed to be no classism in the church. But there is.
And tithing is supposed to be free food, right? To give to the and give to the widows and to the orphans. That's what tithing is, right?
And to
And
the people who work the church. So like the
yeah, tithing
the
is
priest and everything of the church for
right.
their livelihood.
Tithing is actually food, and you bring your food there or your money there to buy stuff, and the church and the congregation eat together every Sabbath, right? That's what tithing is. It's not
Hmm.
giving your last and being drawn out. That's not what tithing is.
Hmm.
Let me
The
go.
church should be educating in they're educating in the Bible, but the second job would be educating the people, the congregation, and having a school, even if it's a after school program or before school program, or it's a little elementary school. You can start it off small. You have the building, everything is there. It's just you being organized, getting it together, and then following through. Follow through.
I wonder, can we actually do and accomplish any of these? Well, not any of these, but the big ticket items here. Like, because it seems like we gave the example, like with the Panthers and whatnot. Like, when we actually get it around to actually doing something substantive, it seems to be um, basically sabotaged. Either it'll be like agents coming in and then disrupting things internally, or it'll be some sort of policy change externally. Like you'll end up getting that 1-2 punch that ends up
All
kind
of
of
that
yeah.
all of that works together though, because they will send in sleeper cells to learn, what we put in force, and then they'll go back and report to them, and then they'll get together after they receive that report, and then they'll create policy to dismantle the policies that we're trying to push for. So it's all working in line. Like for us to think that it ain't, that's crazy. I mean, they used a black man to bring down Fred Hampton. He
Yeah.
mapped out the whole apartment to them. He told them exactly what they're gonna be walking into. They had a guard at the door with a shotgun because the Black Panthers were organized enough to know that the government was watching them, but they just didn't know that they actually had a informant within them,
That's
right?
wild when
But
you think about it.
yes, he mapped out the entire apartment to them. What was his name? William. I forget his last name. The guy who was the informant who brought down the Black Panthers. But anyway, black man. They had him on some car theft charges, and he worked with them to bring down the Black Panthers. But he mapped out the entire apartment that Fred
So,
Hampton was staying at. He told him there was
so
going to
the
be a guard at the
first,
door with a shotgun. They shot through the door. Man, people are working with these people,
fir-
man.
the first assassination attempt on King was a black woman. The people who slain Malcolm X were black people.
Hmm.
You you save yourself, black man. That's why SBM. We passed that, man. We passed trying to save the black community. We passed that. The last that was 1990s. We in 2026. 2026 to save your own ass.
Let me go ahead and play this. I want to get you all's opinion on this. I played this earlier, but like it merits repeating because there's some individual things that I want to kind of break down.
And you're thinking about sitting out? But, because of Pookie might be. How can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable.
All right, so let's kind of look at this like through this lens here. So they were worried about there being a lack of enthusiasm for Kamala from black men, so they responded with
Yeah.
this. And if you caught that first part there, the man, he was sitting there, he was like, yeah, I'm not thinking about sitting out. And then Obama quickly jumps in like, yeah, but your cousin Pookie is. Your cousin
Yeah,
Pookie
see,
is.
I don't know if y'all was paying attention to the same thing I paid attention to, but after he dropped that line about black women always having our backs, look at his facial expression. The one that's on the screen right now. That's how he was looking. He sat there, and I bet you, I bet you in that moment when that slipped his mouth, first thing that came to his mind was Michelle Obama. I'm sure he paused like, I know I'm lying. I know I'm up here lying. But I got to tell this lie to get the candidate that I won't. If you listen to his cadence through that entire conversation, he did not speak confidently about anything that was coming out of his mouth at all. It sounded like he was selling snake oil, man. He didn't believe none of that was coming out of his mouth, man.
But he said it with such veracity, such intensity.
He's learned to be like that, right? I mean, we all know Obama. Guys, very articulate, very well spoken, and that's years and years of practice, right? That's his education taking over, man. He don't believe that shit. The whole time he's saying that shit, he thinking about, my woman at home don't even got my back like that.
Well, yeah,
I can see it in his eyes.
This whole tirade about how black women have our backs and they get us out of trouble and all of this stuff, and it's like, okay, so Michelle got you out of trouble? Like,
no, I would have loved to have been there when he said that. I would have loved to have been there. I would have raised my hand, been like, aren't you not allowed to touch the thermostat, nigga? Right? You ain't even allowed to touch the thermostat. Nigga, what you're talking about.
Oh my goodness.
I would have loved to have been up there. Oh my God. I would have loved to have been there.
I mean, like, this is the stuff that we have to deal with politically. Like, this is the way that they are addressing us. We played the other one earlier with Biden. Like, okay, if you're even thinking about considering somebody else, then you ain't black. And then we have this one over here where Obama is like, oh, you're thinking about somebody else? Oh, how dare you? Like, if you kind of like just kind of cut off that first part there, like, you're thinking, and that's the problem. It could have just left it at just that part alone. You're thinking, and that's a problem.
Yeah, pretty much. As long as we go along. But see, here's the thing. You talk about Kamala Harris, man. She has a history, when it comes to black men. Now, me and Reset actually went back and forth about Kamala's history. They won't produce particularly some of the numbers that we looked into. But there was an alarming amount of people in San Francisco, which were predominantly white, that were prosecuted for marijuana charges under her reign. And then, now we're not even getting the numbers with the state of California. So you have a black woman that you're trying to have the best history when it comes to black men. Not only that, but she got inaugurated into Senate as an Indian American. If anybody wants to go look at that video, they actually have her inauguration video where all of the Indian Americans who were in Congress were being inaugurated. And she got inaugurated in America, but now all of a sudden she's the first black woman. Get out of here. It's we know that these women don't have our back. These are the same women who will not, shed a tear if we went to jail over some nonsense.
Yep. Let me go ahead and play this other one here too, just to kind of like encapsulate this whole through line of disrespect. Like, because it's the how dare you think about trying somebody else, then you ain't black. Then we have, oh, how dare you, she's a woman, you need to vote for her. This is misogynoir and everything else. And it's like, okay, all right. Like, are you talking to other people like this though? And so this is like, this is basically like right after Biden was elected. Let me show this one.
She is a significant player. That's a serious position. But it's like when I named her, well, I don't know if that counts. I'm not so sure. Well, if it doesn't count for y'all, well, the hell with y'all. 20 40, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do. Well, first of all, you're going to learn more about Vilsack's record, but my point is this. I don't think we should make that a big issue going into before January 5th, when the election takes place down in Georgia. But I also don't think we should get too far ahead of ourselves on dealing with police reform in that, because they've already labeled us as being defund the police.
All right, so there's like multiple things going on there. What did you all see in that? This is actually like an hour and 40 minutes long, but I just kind of took out some of the most important clips there, like pretty much encapsulating not just what was being said, but what the tone was about what was being said. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna give you this, I'm gonna give you that, and if you don't like it, then the hell with you. If you don't think that's enough,
This
then the
same
hell
man,
with
when
you.
he
Huh?
this the same man as well. I just heard him speaking about, Spanish Americans, or not Spanish Americans, but Hispanic Americans or whatnot. This is the same man who went on the record stating, quote unquote, that there is no diversity of thought in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
And he was alluding to the diversity of thought that he felt in the Latina community when he made that statement. All right. So, amongst the other things that he stated when it comes to the black community, that one, Obama was the first mainstream articulate black man. Another comment he made. It really gives you, it really tells you exactly how Biden thinks about us, right? Biden is actually the same guy who wrote some legislation, some anti-busing legislation with William Roth back in the 70s. And Kamala Harris actually called him out about that during the presidential debates. And then his response to that was he felt that he did a thing during that time, right? This is the same man who sponsored the 1994 crime bill, right? And then when people called him out about that during the presidential debates, he alluded to the fact that he had the support of the Congressional Black Caucus or whatnot. All right. Like, he doesn't feel that any of that he did in his past is bad. He makes no apologies for it when they ask him about it. So this is the
Yeah,
same
he's
man.
indignant.
So I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I understand who he is, what he stands for. This guy did the eulogy at Robert Byrd's funeral, which is a known segregationist from back in the day. Had very close ties with James Eastwood, or James Eastland, another known segregationist. So I'm not surprised when he's basically telling black folks to just, take what we give you, whatever's left. You can have this and just learn to be happy with that. Doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, it seems like he definitely has some of those different lapses where he kind of thinks that he's back in yesteryear. And then he sounds like he's from yesteryear. And he has to, somebody has to remind him, hey, sir, it is 2024. Like, you are in the 2020s now. And like, so then the other thing there is like this whole idea about promising, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get to it. Oh yeah, we can't really do anything with criminal justice reform, but I'm gonna get to it. It's always this idea of, okay, I can't do it now, but I promise you I'm gonna get back to it. And then we just kind of like take that promise and actually believe it, and then nothing happens, and then we can't punish them.
And that's just a lie. That's just a lie when he says stuff like, oh, we can't do anything about criminal justice reform. Yes, we can. I mean, we had the First Steps Act of 2017 after Trump got in office. Shout out Tim Scott, right? That undid a lot of those bad provisions in the 1994 crime bill. And a lot of people were exonerated because of that act was passed. So yeah, that's just a bold-faced lie, man. Like, People ain't paying attention. That's why they're able to be so easily lied to.
Yep, and then the same thing, like I think you already kind of touched on it already, where he was like, "Oh well, y'all need to go make some coalitions with the Latinos because they have a larger population than you all do." But here's the thing about that too, like you can't the whole putting them and lumping them all into the same category is a superficial thing. Like the the Puerto Ricans and the Mexicans and the Colombians are not necessarily going to be all on the same page. Just because you have a common language doesn't mean that you have common political interest. I wish Tunnel Runner was still up here. He would be able to speak to that one.
Yeah, it's a shame, man. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, man. Black folks, we really are just beggars when it comes to politics, and that's essentially why they don't take us seriously, right? We don't demand, against. We don't really put our foot down and demand what we want and stand 10 toes down on it as a people, right? And I really think that problem doesn't get solved until we collectively as Black people here in America start to value the family once again, right? But that's going to be an uphill battle.
Ah, yeah, that's kind of like going back to the building blocks because that's kind of how
it's not going to come any other way.
Communities emerge.
Yeah, because it's selfless. Focusing on the family is a very selfless act. It's very selfless for the man. It's very selfless for the woman. It's very selfless for the children. Because it's not about any of you individually. It's about the family, all of us together, right? So it has to start there. If you don't learn how to have within, it's going to be harder to have unity within your community. It's going to be harder to have unity within your district. It's going to be harder to have unity within your state. It's going to be harder to have unity within your nation, right? You have to learn it on the home front first. So,
yeah, that's basically the basis of community to are basically the basis of community to begin with is it starts first with the family. Before that, you're an individual operating as a free agent in the world, and then once you get your family, then you get other families acting together for the betterment of their collective families, and then it goes up and up and up and up for that. The problem though is that whole idea of not having a nation within a nation. I forgot who said that, but that there will not be a nation within a nation. So there's that operating within the American system also. So whatever you do, it's going to be kind of it's going to be interfered with one way or another, which is why I think maybe it might be a good idea to shop in some other markets here and there. That's going to actually lead me into my next topic for unsupervised Black men, which is kind of dealing with the presence of Black kids in white suburbs seems to go negative. It seems to go bad.
I can speak to this.
I mean, it's just all kinds of bad. It had bad for the girls, bad for the boys, bad all around in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that we think we're doing something good. It's an attempt to do something good. And oh, look, this is like an area where we have like a high-ranked school system. It's like, okay, that's good and all, but like, is it going to be good for you?
Right. Yeah, I'm literally, I'm dealing with this phenomenon right now, right? Moved out with these, white folks essentially for the access to the school district. Because, I have 6 children. I can't afford to send them all to private school for higher education. So, for them to get, access to equal education, I made that decision to move out with the white folks. Now, what I've seen from an emotional development perspective is that it hasn't been good at all. I think my girls, for instance, they kind of compare themselves a lot to the white girls they're around, right? Because they're out here with the straighter hair, the lighter skin. And I think for them, not seeing as much of themselves when they go to school, around other girls, that makes being a teenager a bit more difficult for them, right? I see that my son and the fact that he's been, growing up in these neighborhoods all his life. I see some differences to how he sees his role or his position here in America as a black man versus how I see it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of come up against those issues. My main concern is, will my children grow up as they mature and appreciate their blackness, or will their blackness become a problem to them?
Yeah, it gets pretty deep. I'm gonna try to kind of like leave it for next time around, but like some of the stories that you hear about are kind of horrific. Like we'll see individual things pop up from time to time. Like we'll hear or we'll see like the Nolan Wells case, and we'll see, okay, this is this other case where this black lady was out with white friends and she didn't make it back home, or we'll see like all of these different instances of all these different things, and we'll kind of deal with this stuff on an individual basis, like what happened in this individual case, but we never kind of like stop and think about like, where does friction flow? Like, doesn't friction tend to kind of like flow downhill, and then you'll think that you're like a part of the group, but then you're actually you're not. Like you're there, yeah, that's true enough, but like when the stuff hits the fan and when it's time to throw somebody under the bus, I mean, under the bus you go.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the psychological effects about like being not necessarily the image of what's supposed to be desired, or all of the complexes that surround that, and then the need for white approval, and that just kind of like ends up following certain people throughout life, and how that and how that plays out in different ways is concerning.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm gonna
Hot
go
sauce,
ahead.
Namya.
I guess he's doing something. He's probably like doing
I just say
something.
something.
But I'll go ahead and I'll get ready to close it out. Unless if y'all have any closing statements, go ahead and drop them real quick. Name it if you're still here, giving me your closing statements as well, and then we'll go ahead and get ready to roll out. Oh, hot sauce is gone. I guess maybe Name was doing something.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, man, it's a great show. Good topic point or a good talking point. Um, I personally hope to see something change in my lifetime, man. Like during the civil rights era, I feel like we had a lot more. It seemed like we had a chance back then, right? There was a lot of unity. The family was still taken seriously, right? Black men and women stood in solidarity, to push forth that common goal. But I think they did a great job of dismantling unity in the black community after that movement. And now we're in a position where we have to get to a point where we can, repeat that again. Kind of like a new age civil rights movement, right? But we're definitely gonna have to start taking the family unit seriously first and foremost for that to happen. And this environment we're in right now, man, people are essentially taking the carrot that's been dangled in front of them, and they're not necessarily committed to what they need to be committed to bring about true change, like a self commitment. Unfortunately, in the black community right now. So, and I don't know if that just happened before or after the fact. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if that came about as a response to the fact that there is so much disunity right now in the black community, and you have more people just saying, okay, well, let me just look out for me and mine. Or if, that the fact that people or did people start saying, "Let me just look out for me and mine" before the disunity came? I don't know, but I feel like that's what we're dealing with right now.
I think that what happened here, in my opinion, and I've kind of heard different people say different things, uh, and the best that I've heard was that during the civil rights era, you had a window of opportunity. Like people had been trying to advocate for their rights all through the Jim Crow era. Like it's not like they just woke up one day and decided, it might be nice if we actually kind of like advocated for ourselves. Nah, you had people trying to advocate for themselves the whole time. Like, and they were doing all kinds of different things to do it. Like you had even like the whole, okay, let's go out there and show our mettle and our value out there in World War II. Like World War I, even like all across the board, Black people have been trying to get their piece of the pie the whole entire time. What we had during the civil rights era is we had competition of ideologies. You had the basically the communists out there putting out their basically their media saying, okay, look at that. You see that? That is a Black serviceman on a tree. Is that what you want in your society? Like that is the society that you're talking about, that you think there's so moral and so just, so this and so that. And that's a bad look. So then you had the US that had to respond to that. So you ended up with a window of opportunity where we had a competition of ideas, where they were trying to play this little morality game to where they actually look halfway decent and halfway good. And so you ended up with some of these different things that came out of it, some actual tangibles that came out of it, because they were also dealing with the competition of ideas. And I think that window of opportunity was a door that closed, and then you ended up with, and then maybe there might be another window of opportunity that arises as we go and transition from this service sector age to the next age that we're going to end up dealing with. People would call this like the information technology age and whatnot. I think there might be a better name to call this this transition that we're going through. But shifts is what it's all about, like competing ideas and shifts in the system is where you actually end up with the opportunity to make progress. So the next time we see a shift, we got to jump on it. We got to jump on it fast, and we got to kind of like make some sort of a progress with it. It's kind of paradoxical that we live in the age where we have so much access to information, but then we also have so much access to misinformation. We have so much access to each other and coordinating real fast and doing like a quick Instagram post and getting a bunch of people to respond to it. But then at the same time, we might not have that same close-knit community that we had in the past, where we go and we meet face to face, then we talk to each other face to face and all that. Like everything is basically trade-offs. And we need to kind of do the best that we can to remember that we do have the ability to make demands, negotiate, get some commitments, and then give our support, rather than just simplistically giving our support and then hoping for the best.
Right. Yeah. Got to continue to have those conversations, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll go ahead and call it a day, and then I'll see you all next time around next weekend. So that next weekend is going to be another that'll be unsupervised Black men. I basically alternate these. So it's going to be Black Men on Code today. We do unsupervised Black men next week, and then we'll go back to Black Men on Code again the week after that. So with all that, I hope y'all have a great day, and peace out.